My name is Amanda Reed. I'm 32 years old, and I coordinate commercial construction projects in Chicago, which means people trust me to manage crews, deadlines, budgets, and mistakes that could cost millions. Yet the night before my brother's promotion party, my mother texted me as though I were incapable of managing anything except her kitchen. "Your brother's boss will be here tomorrow. Cook, clean, and don't embarrass us." Before I could respond, my father added, "It's the only value you bring to this family." I was inside a temporary office above an active construction floor when I read those words. Concrete dust covered my sleeves, 3 supervisors were waiting for my decision, and a $60 million project depended on the schedule I had rebuilt. At work, my judgment mattered. To my family, I was unpaid labor. They expected me to buy the food, prepare the house, serve nearly 40 guests, and disappear before anyone important asked what I did for a living. I stared at their messages until something inside me became still. I didn't argue or beg for respect. I took screenshots, opened the catering reservation they had placed under my name and credit card, and made one decision they would not understand until the following evening. By 6 o'clock, their kitchen would be empty. No appetizers, no dinner, no obedient daughter beside the sink. But the missing food would become the smallest problem in that house. Before I tell you what they said, and what happened after I walked through their front door, tell me, what time is it where you are? Where are you watching from? And what is the weather like there? Does it match your mood tonight? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. The following morning, I woke to 17 unread messages. My mother, Linda, had sent most of them before 7. Pick up the flowers, collect the linen napkins, arrive before noon because the guest bathroom needed attention. Make the mushroom appetizers without garlic because Tom's boss disliked strong smells. My father, Robert, added that the driveway should be swept before the guests arrived. My brother, Tom, contributed one message. "Don't make this weird. Tonight matters to my career." Not one of them asked whether I had work or had agreed to help. They had built the celebration around the assumption that I would surrender my Saturday, because Tom's success had always been treated like a family emergency. I opened our old family message thread and saw the pattern I had denied for years. Before Tom's engagement dinner, Mom had written, "Leave work early, we need someone reliable in the kitchen." On the night I received an industry award, Dad had texted, "Congratulations. Can you stop by afterward and clean up?" I had skipped my company celebration because I believed helping them would eventually earn appreciation. Instead, every favor became permission to demand more. At 8:15, my friend and coworker Megan Alvarez arrived carrying coffee and a folder for Monday's review. She read the messages, then stared at me. "They're assigning you jobs for the party?" I showed her the expense spreadsheet Mom had sent earlier that week. It listed catering, flowers, beverages, rentals, bakery orders, and cleaning supplies. The total was $2,846. At the bottom, beside my name, she had written, "Amanda will handle payment as her gift to Tom." No one had discussed a gift with me. They had used my email and card information from an earlier event, assuming I would pay, rather than disappoint them. "Did you authorize this?" Megan asked. "No." I called the catering company and explained that the reservation had been created using my information without approval. Because the menu had not been finalized, they canceled it and reversed the charge. I did the same with the bakery, florist, rentals, and beverage delivery. I wasn't stealing food. I was removing my money and name from purchases I had never approved. By 9:02, every reservation attached to me was canceled. Then I sent one message to all 3 of them. "I will not cook, clean, serve, pay for, or organize tonight's party. The orders created under my name have been canceled. You have the day to arrange your own food and services. I will attend only if I am treated as a guest." Tom called within 30 seconds. "What did you do?" I corrected an assumption. "The caterer says the order is canceled. It was booked with my card." "It was your gift." "A gift is offered, Tom. It isn't assigned. He lowered his voice. Evelyn Parker is coming tonight. She approved my promotion. Do you understand how important this is? Then start organizing. You're punishing me because Mom worded something badly? Dad said the only value I bring is service. You reacted with a thumbs up. He went silent. Just fix this before Mom finds out. She sent the expense sheet. She already knows. I ended the call. Megan watched me place the phone face down. How do you feel? I expected guilt. Instead, I felt the clarity that comes when a machine finally stops running. Like I discovered the word no has an off switch. We left for the construction site because a subcontractor needed approval on a revised delivery route. As I put on my hard hat, Mom texted, "You have until noon to stop this tantrum." I did not answer. At work, when a plan failed, we adjusted it. My family had nearly 9 hours to do the same. By 10:30, I was reviewing delivery schedules when Tom posted a photograph in the family group. He was holding a framed announcement beside the words, "Director of Strategic Development." Mom replied with celebration emojis. Dad wrote, "Proof that talent always rises." I would have ignored it if Megan had not pointed to a presentation slide visible behind him. "Amanda, is that your risk matrix?" The slide was partly covered, but I recognized the diagonal scoring system, gray headers, and phrase, "Sequence pressure creates invisible cost exposure," from an internal Northline construction template. I also recognized a spelling mistake in the lower right corner because I had made it myself 6 months earlier. I enlarged the image and took a screenshot. Facts were more useful than panic. 6 months earlier, Tom had called on a Sunday and said he was struggling to understand construction risks connected to a redevelopment proposal. He claimed he needed general guidance before a team discussion. Because he was my brother, I created a simplified example using fictional figures. I removed client names and added a watermark. Training example, not for external distribution. My email included one clear instruction. Use this only to understand the process. Do not copy, circulate, or present any part of this document. Tom thanked me and said I had saved him from looking unprepared. Now the same matrix appeared in the presentation that had helped him earn a promotion. Megan found Crestwell Development's public announcement praising Tom for developing an original construction risk forecasting model used for the Hawthorne Center redevelopment proposal. Northline had recently been invited to submit a preliminary bid for part of that project. A document I created as a teaching example had been stripped of its warning label, presented as Tom's work, and possibly used in a process involving my employer. This was no longer merely a family dispute. I pulled up the original email. The attachment, watermark, date, and restrictions were intact. Megan found another Crestwell photograph showing one of my placeholder cost ranges beneath the company logo. He presented it to executives, she said. I called my supervisor, Daniel, and explained the situation without exaggerating. The file contained no active client secrets, but it used a protected internal structure and had been shared against my instructions. Daniel asked me to forward everything to compliance. Don't contact Crestwell directly, and don't delete anything, he said. At 11:17, Northline's compliance officer confirmed that the material required review because Crestwell was a potential contracting partner. They would contact Crestwell's legal department. For a moment, the old reflex returned, telling me that protecting Tom mattered more than protecting myself. Then I remembered Dad's message. They wanted my labor, money, and professional knowledge, but did not believe I deserved credit or consent. I did not report Tom to hurt him. I reported the misuse because ignoring it could damage my career and expose Northline. At noon, Tom called again. Did you contact my office? No. Legal asked where I got the framework. Then tell them the truth. What did you send? I sent my employer the material you copied. They decided how to handle it. His calm vanished. Are you insane? My promotion becomes official tonight. Then you should have corrected the record before tonight. You gave me that file. I gave you a training example with written restrictions. We're family. You can't put restrictions on helping family. You put a price tag on my attendance and called it a gift. Apparently, this family uses whatever belongs to me unless I object. He claimed the model had been improved, the figures were fictional, and everyone borrowed templates. Each defense contradicted the previous one. Then he said, "What removed my final doubt? Do you know how embarrassing it will be if Evelyn questions me tonight?" He wasn't worried that he had taken my work. He was worried that someone important might discover it. "Embarrassment is not injustice," I said. "You're experiencing the first because you committed the second." Tom called me jealous and said my construction job had made me arrogant. "What did you tell them I do?" I asked. He hesitated. At family gatherings, he introduced me as someone who helps manage paperwork on building sites. He never mentioned that I coordinated multi-million-dollar schedules or supervised vendor compliance. My success made the family hierarchy inconvenient, so they reduced it to paperwork. "That has nothing to do with tonight," he said. "It has everything to do with tonight." I ended the call. Dad later left a voicemail ordering me to withdraw the complaint. Mom accused me of trying to destroy Tom because I couldn't tolerate his happiness. At 12:58, Tom sent one final message. "Come by 3, bring the food back, and tell legal this was a misunderstanding. Do that, and we can forget this happened." I saved every message and returned to work. For the first time, their urgency did not become my emergency. At 4 that afternoon, Megan and I returned to my apartment. I had finished my work, documented the compliance issue, and decided I would not attend unless my family confirmed that I was invited as a guest. They never did. Instead, the messages grew frantic. Mom discovered the cancellations around 1:30 and spent the next 2 hours calling restaurants. Most could not prepare dinner for 40 people on short notice. The bakery had reassigned its slot, and the florist could offer only basic arrangements. At 4:17, Mom texted, "The refrigerator is empty because we trusted you." That sentence summarized our relationship. Trusting me never meant believing in my judgment. It meant assuming my time and resources were available without permission. At 4:36, Tom wrote, "People are arriving in 90 minutes. Stop acting like a victim and bring whatever you bought." I reminded him that I had bought nothing because the orders were canceled before preparation. "Then go buy it now," he replied. I ignored him. Megan ordered food for us, and we reviewed notes for Monday's meeting. At 5:22, my cousin Rachel sent a private message. "Your mom is telling everyone you promised to cater and vanished with the food. She says you're jealous of Tom's promotion." She included a short video from the living room. Mom stood near the fireplace speaking to 2 relatives. "Amanda does this whenever the attention isn't on her," she said. "We gave her one meaningful responsibility, and she sabotaged the evening." Dad added, "She's never handled Tom's success well." I watched it twice. I was no longer willing to defend myself privately while they damaged me publicly. Silence had protected their image, not my peace. "I'm going," I said. Megan set down her fork. "To help them?" "No. To stop them from rewriting what happened." I changed into a navy blazer and placed the messages, canceled reservations, original email, and compliance confirmation into a folder. I didn't need a dramatic speech. I needed dates, receipts, and their own words. Megan offered to come inside, but I asked her to wait nearby. At 5:49, Dad left another voicemail. "If you don't get here and fix this, I'll call your boss Monday and tell him how unstable you've become." I forwarded the message to myself and added it to the folder. When I reached my parents' house at 6:07, cars filled both sides of the street. Through the windows, I saw relatives holding empty plates and wine glasses. The dining table had folded napkins, but no food. The kitchen counters were bare except for melting ice and empty serving dishes Mom had expected me to fill. There was no music. Conversations stopped and restarted in uncomfortable bursts. Silence had filled the house, but it wasn't caused only by missing appetizers. It came from the gap between the celebration my parents had promised and the reality they built on my obedience. I opened the door without knocking. Mom saw me first. Relief crossed her face, then disappeared when she noticed my empty hands. Where is everything? What everything? The food, the flowers, the cake. The orders you placed using my name? This is not the time, Amanda. It became the time when you told our relatives I stole food that never existed. Dad stepped forward. Go into the kitchen. We'll discuss your behavior later. I'm not going into the kitchen. Tom crossed the room wearing a new suit and a controlled expression. Behind him stood Evelyn Parker, Crestwell's executive vice president, and the woman who had approved his promotion. Tom forced a smile. Amanda, thank you for finally coming. We've had a misunderstanding. No, we've had an arrangement I never agreed to. Evelyn looked from him to me, observant rather than confused. Tom gestured toward the dining room. Could you put something together? Anything simple? We can talk after the guests eat. Even after the cancellations, inquiry, insults, and lies, he believed my presence meant surrender. I didn't come to serve dinner, I said. I came to correct the story you've been telling about me. Mom's face tightened. Do not humiliate this family. I opened the folder. You should have considered that before you gave me evidence. The room became quiet enough for me to hear the ice settling in the kitchen bowl. Tom's coworkers stood near the windows, unsure whether to leave or pretend they had heard nothing. Evelyn remained beside the fireplace, watching me. Mom tried to recover control. Amanda has always had a flair for drama, she said. She offered to organize the dinner and canceled everything because she was upset about her brother's promotion. That isn't what happened. I was assigned the dinner without being asked. The orders were placed under my name and charged to my card. When I refused, you told people I disappeared with the food. I held up the expense sheet. This lists nearly $3,000 in costs beside my name and calls it my gift to Tom. One of my aunts asked, Linda, did Amanda agree to that? Mom ignored her. Families help each other. Help requires a choice. Dad moved closer. You're ruining your brother's most important night over money. Money was only the first thing you took without permission. I removed a screenshot of his message and read it aloud. It's the only value you bring to this family. A murmur moved through the room. That was taken out of context, he said. The context was Mom ordering me to cook, clean, and avoid embarrassing all of you. I handed the thread to my aunt. Tom's expression began to crack. Enough. This party is about my promotion, not Amanda's grievances. Evelyn spoke for the first time. Actually, Tom, there is another matter we need to discuss. His face lost color. Evelyn, legal said they were reviewing a misunderstanding. Legal said Northline reported possible unauthorized use of protected planning material. I was told the original creator might be your sister. Everyone looked at me. Tom laughed too loudly. Amanda gave me a basic template. I developed it into something different. I opened the folder to my original email. I created a fictional training example after Tom asked for help understanding risk planning. The file was watermarked, and my email said it could not be copied, circulated, or presented. Evelyn held out her hand. I gave her the email and document. She compared it with a photograph on her phone. The structure is identical, she said. So is the language. Tom stepped closer. The underlying idea is common. My team added the real analysis. Did you tell your team where the framework came from? She asked. It was a family resource. That was not my question. Tom glanced at me as though I had violated an agreement. Our family had always followed one rule. Anything benefiting Tom became communal, while anything hurting me remained personal. I removed the watermark because it was distracting, he admitted. But the work I presented was still mine. I pointed to the lower right corner. What does that line say? Evelyn read it aloud. Sequence pressure creates invisible cost exposure. Exposure is misspelled, I said. I made that error in my original draft. It appears in Tom's presentation because he copied the page before correcting it. A typo doesn't prove ownership, Tom said. The email, metadata, watermark, and written restrictions do. Mom stepped between us. Surely this can wait. Tom has worked for this promotion for years. Evelyn looked at her calmly. That is why it cannot wait. Leadership requires judgment and transparency. Dad said, he made one mistake. His sister is exaggerating because she resents him. Northline did not contact us because of a family disagreement, Evelyn replied. Their compliance department contacted ours because material linked to a potential contracting partner appeared in a presentation without attribution. Tom turned to me. Tell her there was no confidential client information. There was no active client information, I said. That doesn't make copying it acceptable. You see? Tom said. No damage was done. Damage includes loss of trust, Evelyn replied. You presented this framework as evidence of original leadership. It was considered during your promotion review. Tom stared at her. Are you saying the promotion is cancelled? It is placed on immediate administrative hold pending review. You will not assume the director role on Monday. Mom covered her mouth. Dad looked at me with open anger. Tom's framed announcement stood behind him, transformed from a trophy into evidence. You can't do this here, Tom said. You invited me here as your supervisor, Evelyn replied. You also said tonight would demonstrate your ability to manage pressure and relationships. Instead, I arrived to learn that your family blamed your sister for a catering failure after charging the event to her, and now I'm reviewing work you claimed was original. Tom looked around for someone to restore the version of him they had gathered to celebrate. No one spoke. Mom turned on me. Are you satisfied now? You got what you wanted. I wanted to be asked instead of ordered, credited instead of erased, and treated like family instead of emergency staff. You wanted revenge. Revenge would have been allowing Tom to continue until the consequences became worse. I reported the issue when I discovered it. Evelyn returned the papers. Preserve the original files. We may need a formal statement. I already have. She nodded. Thank you for handling it professionally. Those words affected my family more than hours of praise. The woman they invited to admire Tom had recognized the professionalism they spent years dismissing in me. Evelyn collected her coat. Tom, do not access the Hawthorne files. We will meet Monday. She left, followed by 2 co-workers. Other guests began making excuses. My aunt placed Dad's message on the table. Robert, I cannot imagine speaking to anyone that way, much less your own daughter. Rachel hugged me near the door. The room emptied without dinner, cake, speeches, or photographs. My parents had wanted a perfect evening proving their successful family reflected well on Tom. Instead, everyone they wanted to impress watched the truth surface one document at a time. When the last coworker left, Mom locked the door with unnecessary force. Several relatives remained close enough to witness the aftermath my parents had tried to avoid. Tom removed his jacket and threw it over a chair. You planned this. You canceled the food, contacted my company, and walked in with a folder. I planned to protect myself. The consequences came from what all of you had done. You could have warned me about compliance. I warned you 6 months ago when I wrote that the document was not for distribution. I warned you again today when I told you to tell the truth. He paced across the room. They'll make an example of me. Then why did you give them such a clear example? Mom stepped forward. He made a mistake because he was under pressure. He removed a watermark, deleted a warning, presented my work as his own, and accepted a promotion partly based on it. That required several decisions. Tom stopped pacing. I improved it. Then why didn't you credit the source? Because no one promotes the person who needed his sister to explain the basics. Even Dad went silent. Tom had finally admitted that he concealed the origin because the truth would weaken his image. So you knew, I said. Of course I knew. I didn't think you'd turn it into a federal case. You didn't think I would defend something you took. You're my sister. That explains why you should have respected me. It doesn't explain why you believed I had no right to object. Dad pointed toward the kitchen. None of this would have happened if you had simply done what your mother asked. The kitchen is empty because you assumed I would pay. The promotion is frozen because Tom used work he didn't create. The guests left because all three of you lied. Mom said, "We gave you a place in this family. You always had a role." I looked at the unused serving trays. That was the role. She followed my gaze. You were always better at cooking and organizing. Why is it insulting to contribute what you're good at? Because you celebrate his skills and consume mine. You call his contribution leadership. You call mine duty. My aunt nodded. Mom noticed. So everyone is against me? No one is against you, Rachel said. We're reacting to what we saw. Dad looked at me. Call Evelyn. Tell her the template was a gift. No. You owe your brother that much. I owe my employer the truth. Then don't expect to be welcome in this house again. Years earlier, that threat would have broken me. Their house had always been presented as the center of the family, and exclusion had been used as punishment. But access to a house where dignity depended on obedience was not belonging. I won't, I said. Tom headed toward the hallway. When they take this promotion away, I will never forgive you. You're asking me to carry the blame because you don't want to carry the truth. He disappeared upstairs. I collected my folder. Mom called after me. You're leaving us with this mess? Even after the celebration collapsed, she expected me to clean up. Yes. For once, the people who made the mess will handle it. Megan was waiting across the street. When I climbed into her car, she didn't ask whether I had won. She asked whether I was safe. On Monday, I met with Northline's compliance officer and provided the original email, document history, and Tom's messages. Crestwell conducted its own review. Investigators found that Tom had uploaded the unmarked version to a shared proposal folder and described it as a model he had developed over several months. 2 team members had questioned its origin, but he claimed it came from personal research. His promotion was rescinded 9 days later. He was suspended for 2 weeks without pay, removed from the Hawthorne project, and returned to his previous position under another supervisor. Crestwell required ethics training and a written correction to the executives who had reviewed his presentation. He was not fired, although my parents told relatives that I had nearly made him homeless. Mom called relatives and said I had misunderstood harmless messages. Dad claimed my career had made me obsessed with status. Tom described the framework as a collaborative family idea. Instead of answering every rumor, I emailed the relatives who attended the party. I attached the expense sheet, canceled orders, message thread, and original email restricting Tom's use of the document. I wrote, "Several inaccurate claims have been made about the party and the professional review. I am attaching the original records so no one has to rely on competing versions. I will not debate the evidence or participate in personal attacks. For the next 90 days, I will have no direct contact with Mom, Dad, or Tom." Then I muted every family thread. The silence felt different from the silence at the party. That silence had been shock. This one was peace. During the next 90 days, I learned how much of my life had been organized around preventing my family from experiencing inconvenience. Mom texted from new numbers because she could not accept that a boundary applied when she disliked it. She sent photographs of the empty dining table and wrote, "Look at what you've done to us." She left voicemails saying Dad's blood pressure had risen and asked whether I was prepared to destroy the family over a few angry words. I saved the messages but did not respond. Dad contacted my office once and told reception he was concerned about my emotional judgment. Because I had warned Daniel, the call was documented and redirected to human resources. Daniel asked whether I wanted Dad's number blocked from the company system. I said yes. In a healthy workplace, someone threatening my reputation did not receive unlimited chances because he was my father. Northline's review confirmed that I had handled the incident correctly. The sample contained no active bid figures, but leadership updated its training rules. Daniel later asked me to lead the coordination phase of a municipal renovation project. He said my ability to identify risk, preserve evidence, and remain calm under pressure demonstrated the judgment the position required. The promotion came with a salary increase and responsibility for a team of 6. When I told Megan, she raised her coffee. The family member who supposedly brings no value just got promoted for protecting 2 companies from a preventable mess. I laughed but did not send the news to my parents. I was finished presenting accomplishments to people who treated recognition as something reserved for Tom. 6 weeks into the no-contact period, Tom mailed me a letter. The first paragraph blamed pressure, competition, and our parents' expectations. Then the tone changed. He admitted he had removed the watermark intentionally. He knew the model made him appear more experienced, and when his team praised it, he was afraid to correct them because he wanted the director position. He also admitted allowing our parents to describe me as a helper because acknowledging my expertise would reveal how much he depended on me. I kept telling myself it was borrowing, he wrote, but borrowing involves returning something and acknowledging who it belongs to. I did neither. He did not ask me to contact Crestwell or reverse the outcome. He said the promotion was lost because of his choices. It was his first apology that named specific behavior instead of asking me to forget my reaction. I still did not respond immediately. An honest apology did not erase the pattern that produced it. At the end of 90 days, I replied, "I believe you understand more now than you did at the party. I am not ready to restore our old relationship, and I will never again provide work materials, money, or professional assistance without a clear agreement. Any future relationship will depend on whether your behavior changes when there is nothing to gain." Tom answered, "That's fair." My parents were more difficult. They requested a meeting through my aunt, who agreed to attend as a neutral person. I chose a cafe instead of their house. Mom arrived carrying childhood photographs, as though happy memories could negotiate with current facts. She began, "We all said things we regret." I stopped her. "I will leave if this becomes a shared blame conversation. I did not charge you for an event without permission. I did not take Tom's work. I did not threaten anyone's employment. Tell me what each of you did." She looked at my aunt, but no rescue came. Dad spoke first. "I said your only value was what you could do for the family." "And? It was cruel. Do you understand that you treated me as though it were true?" He took a long breath. "We treated Tom's career as something the family had to support. We treated yours as something that made you more capable of supporting him." It was the first accurate description I had ever heard from him. Mom's eyes filled, but I waited. Tears had ended too many conversations before responsibility began. "I kept asking you because you always managed everything," she said. "Then I became angry whenever you wanted recognition or a choice. I told myself you didn't need praise because you were independent. Independence does not eliminate the need for respect. I know that now. Do you? Or do you only want access to me again?" She flinched. "Both. I miss you, and I understand that missing you doesn't entitle me to the version of you who never said no." The answer was imperfect, but honest. I gave them 4 conditions. They would correct the false story told to relatives. They would acknowledge that I had not stolen or withheld food. I had canceled unauthorized charges. They would stop contacting my workplace. They would never again assign me labor, expenses, or emotional responsibility without asking and accepting that I might refuse. Dad asked whether fulfilling those conditions meant everything would return to normal. No. Normal was the problem. It means we can build something different. 2 days later, Mom posted a message in the family group admitting the expenses had been placed under my name without approval and that her claims about me taking the food were false. Dad apologized for the message about my value and for contacting my employer. Tom posted his correction, stating that the material originated with me and that the consequences at Crestwell resulted from his decisions. Some relatives responded with support. Others remained silent. I didn't need unanimous approval. I needed the lie to stop occupying the space where the truth belonged. My relationship with my parents became limited and structured. We met in public places, and I drove myself so I could leave if conversations became disrespectful. When Mom asked whether I could organize their anniversary dinner, I said, "I can attend as a guest, but I will not plan it." She paused, then hired an event coordinator. The world did not end. When Dad joked about Tom being the family success story, Mom corrected him. When Tom asked for work advice, he asked whether I had time and accepted when I said no. Those changes did not make us perfect. They proved people could behave differently when access to me was no longer guaranteed. Months later, I passed through my parents' kitchen during a small family lunch. Mom carried a serving bowl, Dad set the plates, and Tom cleaned a spill. No one called my name or handed me a towel. There was an empty chair at the table, waiting for me instead of a position beside the sink. I sat down. That moment did not erase the promotion party, but it showed why the empty kitchen had mattered. My parents believed the disaster was that no food appeared when they demanded it. Tom believed the disaster was that I refused to protect his image. The real disaster had been the years when I believed love required me to disappear into usefulness. That evening, the kitchen was empty because I finally removed everything they had taken for granted. My money, labor, silence, and willingness to make their choices look respectable. They had planned to treat me like a maid at my brother's promotion party. Instead, they were forced to meet me as the person whose work they had used, whose career they minimized, and whose absence they could no longer explain away. Tom lost a promotion he had not earned honestly. My parents lost the perfect family image they had protected at my expense. I lost the role that kept me exhausted and invisible. Of all those losses, mine was the only one that felt like freedom. So let me ask you, if your family valued what you provided but dismissed who you were, would you keep proving your worth? Or would you finally let the kitchen stay empty?
Thank you for watching until the very end. This fictional story was created only for entertainment, reflection, and educational purposes. We hope it reminds you that the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries may not celebrate your growth, but that does not mean your growth is wrong. Sometimes that discomfort is simply proof that you are no longer allowing the same behavior